Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about Lost Ark. We've got some cool updates, so I'm going to share them with you right now. Let's get started. Now, some of the discussion that we're going to be going over today is kind of like answers to questions that have been brought up, as in, kind of some negative, some positive as well. So let's get into it. Now, one of the questions that was recently mentioned was that sailing in Lost Ark, as you guys have seen the gameplay, kind of looks a little bit weird in the quarter view style of gameplay. It does look a little bit weird when you first see it. I actually do remember that reaction from myself as well. Now, they've gone on to talk about this and they've answered it really well. They said that they simply wanted to break the structure of the typical Korean style action RPG. They also go on to talk about combat, how, they don't want it to just be repeat farming. So play the game for 10 hours, all you do is farm and kill stuff, and it's kind of all the same-ish kind of game. But because the world is an MMO, it's completely open, the ability to break that down into things like sailing kind of jars you and puts you off a little bit, entertaining in its own little way as well. When I think about this being applied to action RPGs that I enjoy, for example, say Diablo 3, I can totally see where they're coming from, how it totally shifts it up. If you remember doing the last act, no spoilers, in Diablo 3, there's a couple of camera changes there. That's really exciting stuff. I wish there was more of that. They've acknowledged that, yeah, it kind of does look a little bit weird, but hey, it's going to break up the combat, the usual stuff. Now, the skill system in Lost Ark is called the tripod system, and it's pretty self-explanatory. You get between 3 choices. Now, what's come up recently is that the tripod system is actually going to be flexible, kind of like the rune system, once again, in Diablo 3. But here's the cool thing about it. They said that they want you to change your skills around depending on different content. Now, I believe this was an early goal of, sorry to keep bringing up Diablo 3, but yeah, it was an early goal of Diablo 3 to do this as well, although it didn't quite go that way, did it? It's a totally different game. When we're looking at MMO content, they might put hard barriers from monsters where you have to explore other skills. They're just going to be way more effective. Great example of this would be a monster is resistant to a certain element, so you would have to change it up. You can't just play one element and kill shit. So yeah, the tripod system is going to be flexible like the rune system in D3. Now, here's a very interesting question because this has come up a lot in one of my videos, and that is that the lance kind of looks like the Monster Hunter lance. And I know a lot of you guys have made that comment as well. They actually talk about this topic, so it's pretty interesting to hear what they have to say. Now, they go on to say that they didn't draw inspiration from this would be a lie. They did. They liked it, but they did go on to say that, they didn't just blindly copy it. However it's going to form, whether you like it or not, it's going to have its Lost Ark flavor to it, its own twist, actually a little bit darker or rustic. So I guess that kind of answers the question. Yeah, they did take some inspiration from it, which is cool. Now, when it comes to the actual exploration of the game, we talked about how they do want to break up the, the style with things like sailing and that kind of stuff. But regarding the actual specific content as well, they wanted to let us all know that, to explore unknown space, they want it to constantly surprise us with random things happening, not just some big climax into one big end boss. They really want it to be like a Witcher 3 experience where you just get surprised all the time by some of the content. Werewolves and random shit everywhere. This is what they're trying to achieve in this game as well. So this is really cool. I just get more and more excited about this game when I hear these type of things. Like these are big claims. I like the broadness and the scale of what they're doing here. Yeah. Now, let's talk about some of the videos that they've actually shown so far. A lot of people have commented that, there's not a lot of combat getting displayed in the videos, and they've acknowledged it and said, yeah, we really wanted to focus on the world design, a little bit less on the combat, although we will see more of it in the future. It really was just a showcase of the game. But the interesting part is that they've acknowledged that the actual game that they have and they're working on, or I should say the build of the game that they're working on, is totally different to the concepts that we've seen in the videos. And in fact, they were actually still concepts of the game. And yeah, the internal design is way, way different. Their focus is to just reinvent action RPGs, not in a crazy weird way, just enough to make it feel like everything's awesomely new. The character differences, we've seen how they are pretty different to most action RPGs. Some a little bit similar, but a little bit different too. That's a weird way of putting it. But anyway, they also go on to say things like the UI design. The weapons are going to be class specific as well and look different on all of the different characters as well. Now, when they mentioned the UI design, this immediately makes me think about the usual structure in action RPGs and the character screen, on the inventory screen, sorry. You know, you've got your helm slot, your chest slot, your boot slot, that it's all kind of the same. It's just a really good way of displaying it. So I'm curious if they want to play around with this a little bit and make that look different too. That'd be pretty crazy. Maybe even like a feature where, you know, you drag the item out of your inventory straight onto your character. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not a game designer, but you guys know what I mean. This is kind of a staple of action RPGs. It'll be curious to see if they reinvent this as well, because this is really reinventing the wheel if they change this kind of stuff. Now, let's talk about the jobs in the game. And something that I was a little bit concerned about was if you choose a job, you know, say like fishing or something like that, that it's going to be a little bit mundane and might just have crafting purposes only. That's not really interesting to me personally, but it is to a lot of people in MMOs. The best thing about this is that they've actually developed a progressively growing system with your job that has more and more value the higher you level. This is really cool. They've actually given us an example here. So in the case of mining, very early on, you might just have a pickaxe and that kind of thing and yeah, whatever. But you can actually use your mining job a little bit later on to do things like lighting up bombs. And as you guys have seen, you know, the machine cutscene in the gameplay video, apparently if you choose mining as your job, then you can actually activate those machines and deactivate them as well. That's your role. Now, this leans back to something pretty interesting that we spoke about in another video where, you know, having some things like treasure finding as your specialist trait actually helps you interact with the NPCs in the game to get maps, to get keys and that kind of stuff. This is kind of like that was a really important role for that character. And this is kind of the same equivalent for the mine. Like, if you are going to go into mining, you know, being able to light up bombs and stuff and activate machines where you'd have to walk past it. If you didn't, oh shit, man, I wish we had a player that was specializing in this particular thing. Anyway, friends, that is it. My name is Elvis. Join me soon for some more Lost Ark. Catch you next time, guys. See ya.